Good afternoon, everyone. Not surprised those of you in Vancouver are outside today because we have had some serious winter clouds. And yeah, if I wasn't teaching this class, I would be outside too. But I am really excited. Let me get my binder to share this class because as I'd mentioned last class, it is not just theory and information, but practical. Uh, so, hoping you got to meditate a little bit this past week. Today's class is a little review of the 6 preliminaries, the things to do before meditation, and also some of the preparation to do mentally when you are sitting in meditation. So instead of kind of just saying what they are, I was figuring we could do it together, or you could actually see. All right. So usually we start with the 3 prostrations and do the opening prayers. But as that is part of the preliminaries, we won't have to do that this time. So what I wanted to show you, so you don't want to see me get the broom, but better to make it look real. So one second, let me grab my broom. So I was writing that if you only had 5 or 10 minutes each day to meditate, I'd say just sit down and meditate. You know, that's how I started. And with limited time, you know, maybe doing these preparation will make it even more difficult for you to have a regular practice, right? But the analogy they use is they said, okay, 2 reasons why you might do some of these preliminaries, like sweeping. Well, if you like coffee, I know some people are a lot of people are big coffee fans or tea fans or anything else you really enjoy eating. You know that part of the enjoyment of it is the preparation, is in, for tea, for example, just, getting the water to the right temperature, pouring it into the cup and letting it warm up the cup. The Japanese do a big ceremony about tea, right? Um, Coffee, I know the connoisseurs rather, I don't think many can roast it, but they like to grind it themselves and then again put it through a good coffee machine. Um, so that is one reason to do these 6 things before you meditate. But if you remember, we're looking through meditation through the Buddhist perspective, that one of the big things that are associated with Buddhism is karma. What you think, what you say, what you do, they all supposedly affect your karma. And that we had spoken that karma, you could think of like planting seeds. And so everything you say or think or do will plant seeds, which is a great metaphor because it's not instant that you get back the karma, but it can be in their future life, next life, or later on. So like a seed, it takes a bit of time. So as you do some of these, I'll kind of explain, like sweeping your area around here. I had to admit wasn't something I did in the past. Actually, my wife loves to sweep. I have pictures. She holds this and sweeps all the time because back in Guyana it was dusty and that was her job to sweep uh, ever she could. And it seems like a family tradition for them. My sister-in-law comes over, picks up the broom, and just sweeps the house, meaning that I have never had to sweep, which I had not. Don't mind. But as you sweep your area, see, I am sweeping. The intent, obviously, you know, clean room, clean mind. Some of you have heard of that. But the one that made me convinced to do this was to think of this metaphor of cleaning as cleaning your mind, cleaning, what is it? Well, they will say attachment to things. And I noticed at the time when I started doing this, yeah, I noticed I was attached to someone, um, and that I had wanted to let go of some of that attachment. And so this is the seed I am trying to plant by sweeping. But any attachment you may have, we all do, will be helped if you sweep your area. So I did sweep. And you'll see that at the monasteries, in the mornings, you'll see the monks do this. And it isn't because, again, they need to, not because it's dirty. It's probably super clean in the monastery, but they see it as, a way to wake their bodies up, to help them get out of bed. Um, this little movement will help them as they go into meditation. So sweep, I usually have done the whole room, but I'm just doing this little area now. So that is the first preliminary. Someone made a joke in one of the audio classes I heard. They're like, does it mean cleaning the whole house? Because if so, they'd never get to meditate. So no, just your area. And the second preliminary, as you hopefully may remember, is making an offering. And so I'd mentioned that some people have these really nice altars. I see a lot in Chinese homes. They're kind of big red, almost they're fairly deep. And then, they have the statues, usually have some bowls for fruit. Well, if you don't have that, all you really need to do, as they say, the tradition in Tibet was to fill up water with offering bowls. And they kind of came up with that as their tradition in Tibet because they said that, they didn't want to not have people who are poor not be able to make offerings to the Buddhas and all the teachers. That they said it's not a good karma to have to feel that you may be stingy, that you are not giving everything that you can. So by making the offering in Tibet with water, something that everybody has, you won't have this, the practitioners won't have this sense of being stingy, right? So I've already filled mine up from this morning, but they say at the end of the night to empty them. And you start from the left. So I'll empty it so I can fill it back up. They say after you empty it, have it face down. And as I read more about this, basically have more information about it. That supposedly you're supposed to wipe it clean with a cloth at the end of the night. And I did agree for a while, I didn't really clean the cups, and I noticed, yeah, a little film forming. So I mentioned last week, you can use, I'm using these candle holders, not very expensive from IKEA. Some of you have seen these little Chinese teacups. There are bigger teacups, but there's tiny little ones. And so I used those before, but they did ship. And these ones I really like. They, as I said, they glitter. Um, so this offering we're making again is to the Buddhas, to all teachers, lamas, they say. And so have some water in the morning that you are then going to pour into these offering bowls. And these offering bowls, is it? We're supposed to obviously line them up. And they say place them just apart the width of a grain of rice. And they say you don't want to have it too far apart because this has that's potential consequence that you may be separated from your teachers. So you have them close so that you can close to your teachers, and that you're going to be filling up from the left to the right. So each one has a special. I don't think we went over. Yeah, maybe we did go over this last week, but I'll repeat it anyway. Um, the first one is to offer. So have in mind who you're offering it to, but that you are offering water to drink. Right. The second one is water to wash their feet. Because in India, where this first was started, you know, it's really dusty there and people wear sandals because it's really hot. So coming in and offering to wash their feet is something very sacred. I don't know if there's a better word to describe it, but you might have heard of how some of Jesus's disciples washed his feet. I will say in one tantric, for my tantric initiation, I washed my teacher's feet. You know, it's, so that's the second one, to offer water to wash their feet. Third one is to offer flowers. So you can actually put a real flower in. When I was in a month-long retreat, I'd pick a little flower from outside and put it in here. The next one is perfume. So yeah, these are really high quality natural perfumes that some are infused in oils that teachers can use after they take a bath, shower. Fourth offering is offer incense. And yeah, I heard about some incense, which is like a powder that you can throw on smoke and then it crackles. So incense, flowers, perfume, incense, light. Light is the fourth one. And I've never burned it. I actually use a candle where I put a little mustard oil in this. It's kind of got worn out, but so they will speak in the books and the readings about filling a lamp with butter with ghee, and it offers a really beautiful light. So I think I'm going to try one day. And then the seventh one is to offer food. They say this eighth one is optional, but I always fill it up. um, to offer music. I love this little cup. It holds just enough. Supposedly there's something special and you can get the water right up to the top. And so that almost looks like it's going to spill over, but it doesn't. And at the end of the night, you're pouring it out, the water in the cup, and you consider it sacred, blessed water. So don't throw it down the toilet, or down the sink. Um, Ideally, if you can offer it, I pour it to plants. Um, so we have quite a lot of plants at home, so I'll kind of do a little rotation. You could drink it too if the water is clean. But yeah, don't just throw it, they said, somewhere where someone can step on. That was one of the messages. So you made your offerings. Um, they also say step one is to set up your altar. My altar is already set up. I have image here of Buddha. And will say that you don't, um, yeah, I mentioned last week I got this in a Buddhist store, just a little wooden altar like 25 years ago. Just dust it off. I just put my little mala on him. If my wife leaves jewelry, I put it on as kind of like an offering. And then I'm going to place it where I'm going to sit before here. Some people will have like a painting or a picture. So I'll do a little half-hour meditation at night. So I'll kind of light up my candles, but I'm not going to light it up during the day. Um, so that is second one, to do the offerings. And third one, sometimes they're a little bit mixed. And actually, I should show you. I did make a printout so that if you wanted to open up the PDF, you could, print it up and have the page. Offerings is the second preliminary. And the third one, before we go into sitting, is prostration, which is what I said we usually start class with. Just show you here. That the prostration is meant for you to wish for body, speech, and mind of the Buddha, right? So, body, speech, and mind. And so, as you do your three prostrations, they say to kind of go down quickly and go down slowly and come up quickly. And should be at an angle. See, as you go, body, think of offering, hoping to have the body, speech, and mind of a Buddha. Come onto your knees, hands flat, and then just have your forehead touch the ground. Body, speech, mind. So join me if you can, because we are going to go into a meditation after we are all set up, body, speech, and mind. So this can be your preparation for it. Okay. And so as they come into sitting, there is actually one class dedicated to the posture. So I'm not going to spend a long time discussing the details of it for today's class. But as you come into sitting, they will recommend a flat sitting cushion, especially some of us bony feet. When you're sitting and there's nothing against a hard floor, it can be quite uncomfortable. So you could just even use a yoga mat or a towel. Actually, I'm usually okay. I actually use this little robe, which I will show you. He's also smiling because I'm wearing a dress shirt. But I had to do some work on the computer and I didn't want to using my meditation clothes as my pajamas because I'll get out of bed, put on my robe or my sweater so I'm not cold, and then just sit. I don't want to be sitting like that because then I'll feel like I'm still in meditation mode. But anyway, I use this little silk kimono partly so I'm not right against the floor, but I also kind of set it so it kind of covers my hands. I don't know, it feels just so comfortable. So you don't need to, but they do recommend a little something underneath your feet. So just talking about posture briefly, you're supposedly setting up your whole body. Foot, they will suggest the full lotus, which isn't easy for many. Um, full lotus is where you place your feet on your thighs. Probably shouldn't have worn. I'm gonna take off my socks so you can get a better view. Usually they recommend that left foot on top first, and so the right one goes on top. So this half lotus can be really uncomfortable for some of us in our ankles, the knees, the hips. So if you feel that and it's so uncomfortable you can't breathe, definitely remove it. The half lotus is fine. Sometimes you have one foot which can do this comfortably. And if not, uh, just sit cross-legged. Um, Especially for men, we usually have tighter hips. So, or yours may be, even if you're female, and if you need a little support underneath your knees, you can place a bolster or pillow underneath that too. So you're setting up your bottom, checking your spine isn't rounded or arched. Is that the slouched will make you sleepy, the arched make it hard for you to breathe. Just checking your shoulders are even. And then the hands, the hand position, um, they recommend just fingers on top of the other and the tips of your thumbs touching, just resting down um, below your belly button, as opposed to the thumbs lightly touching, so that if you do fall asleep a little, like I did this morning, your tips of your thumbs will not touching. And then just rest the tip of your tongue where the roof of your mouth meets the top of your teeth. Yeah. And before you close your eyes, I just wanted to um, share the refuge. Part of once you go into meditation, the third step is to think of refuge and bodhicitta. So, refuge was the information from the last course. So, it was great. I don't know, I think it was one of the teachers, instead of having it on separate sheets, he typed it all out onto one sheet. So, I sent that in the email. But the great thing is then you can have one sheet that you could print out and read over for your opening prayers. That I wanted to show this now because you could either just listen along, I'll read it out, or I'll say it out, or you could read it along. Hopefully, with more classes that you practice, you'll have it memorized. But good review just on the opening prayer. This first one is about trying to bodhicitta, reaching enlightenment for the sake of all living beings. And so that is what will power up your meditation. Um, that if you feel like you are doing this meditation, not just for yourself, but for you to reach Buddhahood so you can help all beings, then um, holding on to the meaning and the thought of it as you read this first, if you're going into meditation, just running it through your mind. You don't have to actually say it out loud. Right? And then the refuge was the last course. I think the good reminder I wanted to offer, and some of you might not remember what refuge was or not know. Refuge is seeking protection, something outside yourself. And so, what does that first require? That requires that you first have fear. The example they use is like you're afraid someone's going to hurt you, so you go to your mom, right? Or you're afraid someone, outside will hurt you, go to the police. So the fear, they say the minimum to be a Buddhist is that you have this fear of being reborn in the lower realms, right? Being born as a hell being, or as a craving spirit, or as an animal, right? So that you have this fear, which then leads you to wanting not to be reborn there and having faith um, that these teachings will prevent you from being reborn in those three lower realms. And so that's why we usually repeat this refuge 3 times. Okay. So up to you. Either you can look at it, I'll hold it close so you could see it on screen, or you can come into your sitting position, close your eyes, and I'll read it out and you can kind of just reflect on the words. So coming into sitting, arranging your legs, your upper body, your hands, your shoulders. Maybe one mention about your head. You want to tuck your chin in a little bit, but not so much you're looking down. And you don't want to lift your chin so much you're looking up. And if you look through the middle of your eyes, you look out towards imaginary horizon. So that's how you want to arrange your head. And you can take a few breaths through the nostrils. And starting with this first opening prayer. Here's the great earth, filled with the smell of incense, covered with a bed of flowers. A great mountain, the 4 continents, wearing a jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of the Buddha and give it to you. By this deed, may all beings reach enlightenment for the sake of. By this deed, may every living being reach the pure world. Idam Guru Ratnam Maga Kam Niratayami. Now the refuge. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. But by the goodness of giving and the rest, may I reach enlightenment for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the goodness of giving and the rest, may I reach enlightenment for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the goodness of giving and the rest, may I reach enlightenment for the sake of every living being. So you can keep your eyes closed and just enjoy your breath. Continue kind of the fourth step of the preparation, which is to visualize. It says visualize the merit field. So what does that mean? It's the term merit field is think about a field again for farming, and the seeds that we plant, we can only plant with others. So they say you can definitely plant good karma if you help an animal, more karma if you help a human being. Amongst a group of humans, more karma if you're helping one in need, or your parents. Not just because, regardless of how your relationship with them is, they say, but because they were responsible for giving birth to you and for taking care of you in your earliest days when you're completely helpless. And that even amongst humans, they said even higher karma would be helping someone who has already seen the direct perception of emptiness and is on its way to being a realized being. So, but here they say visualize the Buddha or Buddhas. There's more than one. I probably should show you if you don't have a picture of statue. That there are a lot of different Buddha statues of Buddha. You might see that a lot of them show that they have long ears, and that they have this unique hair that comes into a little bun. Mine fell off. But supposedly there's about 200 markings in a Buddha, and that is how they receive that through their practice. But you can start just with an image, outline of one. See if you can see it now. If you don't, you can also think of a teacher. If there's one who is teaching you Buddhism, because they say it's important, because Buddhas only help us through their teaching. They don't have that power to change our karma, change how we act. And so the teacher that teaches you something that will change how you act, think, is your window to all the other Buddhas. So they say visualize this Buddha or Buddhas. You've now taken refuge, believing that the teachings can help. And the fifth preliminary, it says it's called clearing obstacles and gathering energy. Clearing obstacles and gathering energy. Now, this is the fifth step, but it's actually made up of 7 parts. And these are 7 things that you go through while you're in sitting before you actually start meditation. So you can keep your eyes closed, stay seated. And the first one is actually to make mental prostrations. So you made three already physically. But now they say visualize the Buddha, one Buddha or Buddhas, and they say multiply yourself. Like imagine yourself many copies of yourself, so many that it surrounds as many Buddhas as you're visualizing. And then to see all your copies doing three prostrations, wishing to also have their body, speech, and mind. So see that now. And then after you finish, this next part is the fun part. You're going to make offerings. Now it's you can offer the same things that you did in the watering bowls. Those um, kind of run through them and actually see yourself giving that to them. See the details of the cup of water, the wash basin for their feet, you know, the flowers that you're giving them, the incense, perfume, the lights. And it doesn't have to be just one, it can be a lot of things, the delicious food that you want to offer them. Now, they don't need the food, but it could be something that you cherish, think is really delicious, that you've made, or that you want to, that you want to share. Music. I usually visualize some musicians there playing music for them. So it can be really simple. You can kind of run through those really quickly. I often, just to make it more visual for myself, not make it like just kind of an exercise, I actually imagine I'm taking these Buddhas to a vacation place that I've been to. I've been blessed to been able to go to a lot of places, and in each of those places, there's always either an area or a home, some attraction, which is just really special, which I remember. And so I'll take them there and I will go through all those things that I'll imagine that I'm having a full retreat day with them. And I start by bringing them there and giving them water, washing their feet, and then just running through the whole day, do our meditations together, have lunch, um, where would they wear the perfume after they take a bath, um, then ends at the end of the night after having dinner and doing a kirtan, singing together, um, and end with a meditation. And so for me, I'll kind of lead them through these different places. So I get something different each day. But again, you don't need to do that. But that's the second part of these 7 items of making the offering. The third one is called confession. That you're supposed to look back through, the past day and think of anything that you like to confess that you did or said or thought about that you did not think was something good, that might lead to you receiving this not so good karma in the future. And so might have more than one item, but this is the one think, special step of the seven, because they are saying that if you have something that you did not do well on your mind, you really can meditate. Your conscience will, you might be thinking about it. It might bubble up as you focus on whatever you're focusing on later. Right? So it's best to confess it now. They say not to feel guilt, just to know that you would rather not do it, that you're sorry that you did it. You can quickly do those 4 purifying actions so that you are not planting that seed in your field. Basically, by remembering karma and emptiness, um, realizing, that this isn't something good that you want to do, making a promise when you will not do it, as short as the next few minutes, you won't do that again, or as long as, a day or a week, a month, if it's something you can keep. Remember, the 4th purifying force, so that you don't plant that karma, is to, do an antidote, which could be just doing this meditation, or it can be even more powerful, meditating on emptiness. So confessing is the 3rd step. And the 4th one is rejoicing. So what does this mean? This means rejoicing in something you've done that you might consider good karma. Some help that you have helped somebody with, something that you might have helped them through their work, through your words, or even in your thoughts. Someone, 2 teachers this past week have had some tragedy in their life, and I said I'd be sending my prayers to them. So it can be something as small as that, or it can be, again, you're doing this meditation so that you can reach enlightenment to help all beings. That's definitely something good. So they say, think of something, at least one thing. And here's an interesting thing. They say that if you can also think of something good that someone else did, that the thing they say in the scriptures is that whatever you think of, supposedly you'll receive 10% of their karma yourself if you think of their good deed. So yeah, sometimes after I've had a day where my teachers taught me a class or led a meditation class, I'm really thankful. I think that's a really good deed that they've done. And so, yeah, think of that as part of the 4th ingredient, rejoicing. So number 5 is to request teachings. They say if you're listening to this, or have any interest in reading a Buddhist book, these are all teachings. And they say there's times in history where they're not available. So to count yourself really blessed if you are able to receive these teachings. So this 5th step is to just request the teachers or Buddhas who may emanate as a friend who says something, or family member, maybe even someone who says something that you don't like, but is really giving you a message, maybe to be patient, to be more patient, to be more compassionate, that you're hoping to continue to receive teachings. And the 6th step is that you're asking your teacher to stay. As I mentioned, teachers can take many, and Buddhas can take many forms, from something inanimate to, the partner, your family, whoever you see the most often could be a Buddha that's emanating as that. So you're asking them to stay. So that's the sixth step. And the seventh is to make a dedication. Dedication. That one always wasn't something I was really clear about. And it's actually one of the homework questions. What is the difference between a prayer and a dedication? And so they say a prayer may be like you're wishing for something, hoping for something that you don't have. But a dedication is something that you have already. So you're usually dedicating in a meditation the karma that you receive from having done this meditation, part of this karma, that you're packaging it up and keeping it aside for your enlightenment. That you're not going to use this karma, for something good in this life or the future life, but really like reserving it. It's almost like maybe think of saving it for your retirement, some funds that you're saving, you're putting aside, that's not going to be touched, that's only going to grow. So that's what dedication is. And so that's a seventh ingredient. So these seven things I kind of wrote on the chart on the side because they're part of the fifth step. And that the last one, requesting blessings, last preliminary, is not exactly asking for something that you are wanting, but it is asking, requesting for your ability to understand, for an increase in your spiritual capacity. Um, you know, so that's what you're asking for. And one of the visualizations for that is to visualize the Buddha shrinking super, super tiny, resting atop your head, and then entering your body through the top of your head, down your main channel, the back of your head, along your spine, and sitting inside your heart. So just visualizing a little mini Buddha finding a place in your heart will stay there with you for the rest of the day. So those are the 6 preliminaries with the 7 ingredients. Open the door for you. The things you're supposed to do before you actually meditate. So I'm going to guide you now into a short meditation or end the class, where the theme is what I had shared last week about that. I'm hoping, it's not too upsetting for you. I know it's a subject that not everyone is comfortable with, that can trigger feelings, fears, memories, recent losses yourself. So but it is something we're all going to face. And they do say in Buddhism that remembering that you're going to die is really important because it'll remind you what is important to do when you're living. And so, switch up your legs if they're getting uncomfortable in this position so far. For the next few minutes, I'm just going to have you imagine what you would want read out, what you would want to be said at your funeral. You could, instead of having someone read it out, you could imagine yourself just recording this, your voice, and it being played. Actually, sorry, this exercise is having a eulogy written. So imagine someone else read out maybe something that you wrote, which will include how you want to be remembered. That amongst all those still living at your funeral, that what is shared will reflect how you lived. So think to that now. Back to that thought if your mind wanders away. Just a few more minutes. If you finish, just 2 more minutes and see if there's anything you might still want to add or change to what you imagine being said. 30 more seconds. When you finish, you can just lean back and round your back, give your back a nice stretch. You don't have to rub your palms, but I like to, just to get some energy in my hands and then cup it over my eyes. You can move your body a little just to come back in your body. Usually, before you come out of meditation, you do the closing prayers in your head. So, but as I don't know if some of you have memorized, I thought I would just kind of show it here. And that do this one, dedication. By the goodness of what I've done, just done, the all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. I'm not sure how the meditation, that part was for you, but if it helps you more, maybe take a few minutes to write it down. I know I did it with pen and paper, and that helped me. Well, I'm not sure I was trying to do it just now, and I wasn't having a lot of success, so I might take a few minutes myself to kind of just write it out. But I did want to share that meditation that I experienced, or it wasn't a meditation, it was an exercise in a workshop many years ago, really changed my life, I would say. Um, you know, for the longest time, my mom's message to me when I was young and my brother was to stay single. You can have a lot of freedom if you don't have any kids. And she said this because she married my dad, who was 10 years older, and she was 20, just finally started working, was so excited to see and explore the world. Um, they were Catholic, so no contraception. And right after marriage, they, like, almost, yeah, really soon after, or immediately, they had my brother. And then I came as an accident 2 years later. And so she never got a chance to explore and experience. And then later on, she became a single mom, which added more to her burden. So I definitely understood, even though she was an amazing mom, what she was feeling. And, you know, she kept repeating the message over and over. I don't know about my brother, but in my head, it just kind of was like, yeah, it makes sense. Mm, You know, why be tied down? There's so much things to experience, do, and see in the world. Um, but when I went to this workshop and did this exercise, just kind of so suddenly, like, I'm writing, oh, Hogan passed away when he was whatever the age, but suddenly I wrote father of whatever, and loving husband to, and I realized that is what I wanted. That is what I imagined. Yeah, that it just kind of came out. And it seemed like it didn't make sense based on everything my mom told me. But as I processed it and kind of understood that this was a message from my mom's experience and it wasn't mine, I got to come out and live on my own and explore and do what I wanted to do. Uh, I didn't have kids when I was 20. Um, that I could do what I really wanted and probably wanted more than my mom because um, my childhood with her was one where we didn't have like a stable family. You know, boyfriend coming in, live in, boyfriend leaving. Um, didn't have a father, so made me even want to have that more. So I was just sharing that because I'm hoping that you know, from whatever you just thought of, if you write down or if you do the meditation again, that it might also share some ahas on what you might still really want to do. So I will leave it at that today. Wanted to let you know the next two classes are kind of fairly short in terms of info, like today. Um, if you're watching it, I'll put in the email that the next two Saturdays I have something. I think there's a choir one week and a teachers meeting another week. So I will record the class on Friday, and so you should get it a little earlier. But I'm hoping that if you're not doing the homework um, in the binders, that at least you can make some time to meditate for the next coming week. If not every day, for just 5-10 minutes, every other day, or as I said, a bit every day is better than just a big chunk at one time. So thank you again for listening, sharing this class, and we will see you soon. Namaste.